Hello and welcome back to Elden Ring. This is part 23 of the run where we prepare for the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. And in this run we will go through every weapon, shield, armor set, talisman, spirit ash, physic tier, and cookbook that you will need no matter what build you are creating. Last time we went through Lanedale Royal Capital. This time we will be going through the Subterranean Shunning Grounds. And you may look at this and go, you have a new weapon and a new whole get-up. So what's this about? And it's about Corrin's quest. You see, last time we pointed out the law of regression and how you needed to use it, though that requires 37 intelligence. And we don't have 37 intelligence. In fact, we haven't leveled it up at all. And as you can see, we have some equipment, like America's Scar Seal and the Stargazer Heirloom, along with Twin Sage Glintstone Crown, along with the Grafted Blade Greatsword, which its unique skill gives you more stats. And we also, you can have Godric's Rune instead of the weapon. That also works. But then we also have the Intelligence Not Crystal tier. And those are all used to increase our intelligence. So if we take all of this stuff off, then you see that our intelligence drops to 9. But if we move over to these, we pop this, and we sip the tier, then our intelligence goes up to 38. Again, law of regression requires 37. So with this whole setup, as long as you have 8 intelligence, you're good. 3 if you have Godric's rune on as well. So that's how you can put on law of regression with having basically no intelligence. So you can do that. I pointed out where to get law of regression and where to pop it last time. So do that, and then you can talk to them to continue their quest. It is over there in that general direction.
Oh, yes, the master went after the master's finger, but the
And that gets you Golden Order Totality Gesture, aka T-pose.
What? Well, not master's finger. I have, so I'd like a glimpse. To think, or at least how it's sadly. Do you? Oh, well, in truth, I am me.
And doing that gets you the Immutable Shield incantation, which is that it's mostly just to continue his quest. Now here,
Dad, its incantations bear no lineage from the Erdtree. Very well, I cannot, even if it.
I kind of find it funny that the Two Fingers prayer book has no connection to the Erdtree. I just find that personally funny. Though, continuing on, we can now head off to the Subterranean Shunning Grounds to properly start this part. So, sitting down, we can quickly look at what we got last time, just as a recover. So, in the last part, we got ourselves Barrier of Gold, a Blessing of the Erdtree, Law of Regression, Fire's Deadly Sin. We got the Erdsteel dagger, the cane sword, the coated sword, the Stormhawk axe, the hammer, the bolt of Grandsax, Guardian sword spear, Gargoyle's halberd, Starfist, the Erdtree bow, the gravel stone seal, the golden great shield and the black bow, the guilty hood, imped corpse, omen smirk mask, the deathbed dress, upper class robe, and then Albrecht's set, Raging Wolf set, and Lionel's set. And we also got one singular talisman in the Ritual Shield talisman, which may or may not mean anything to you. Though here at the underground roadside, I'm sorry if you heard that. That was my cat triple sneezing. Though, anyways, from the underground roadside site of grace, we can head forward and drop down this ladder. And then we can head through here as I let my cat out real quick. She didn't want to go out, so if you hear rapid sneezing in the background, she's got allergies, I guess. I don't know. Though we can just continue on. And this section is mostly just combat, though it is worth going through because of an item near the end. So there is a somber smithing stone 6, and here is a smithing stone 7. And down there is a pipe that you can drop onto, though I will be getting to that later as that's a pretty rough section. So here, I'm going to be skipping through most of these fights because these things have a colossal amount of health. In case you're curious, I have 40 strength, have this sword set to the heavy infusion for even better strength scaling, and the weapon is at plus 23. So, yeah, kinda hard to get more damage than that. And we're still doing nothing. So I'm just, for the sake of time, I'm going to be skipping most of the combat encounters with these guys. Again, just for the sake of time. Though you want to clear out this hallway section, which has a handful of these guys. That's where we drop down. And here you can get a Golden Rune 11 and the Blood-Soaked set, consisting of a headpiece and gloves. Now, if you got a Seedbed Curse, then you can talk to the Dung Eater in the Round Table Hold, and he will give you a key. The Sewer Jail key. I do not have it at this time, so we can't do his thing just yet, though we will be doing it later in this part. So that item, continuing forward, is the Dung Eater's thing. So if you have the sewer jail key, you can go do his thing. If not, you can head through this little tunnel with the slugs, and you can drop down that first hole, and that gets you into this different section. Which rewards you with a stone sword key. And continuing on, there's a lot of these slugs. And they give a little over 200 runes. And so, pretty good to just chop through a bunch of them. This is the hole we fell down, so that gets you a stone sword key and then loops back in on itself. Though continuing on, there's another hole here, and there is an item there. So you can take note of that item, as we will be using it as a reference point in a minute. For now, over here, there's a smithing stone 7, and then we can leave because if you stick around, a revenant spawns, and revenants are generally not good for your health. So we can just grab the smithing stone 7 and move on. Now, there's that item with the hole that we dropped down. So there's a reference point, and from there we can continue moving through the tunnels. Now up here, there's another one of these guys, the Omen enemies, and you might want to lure this guy a bit back, because there are 2 more up the ladder, and if you fight him in that room, then it can pretty easily get the attention of the other 2, and then you can end up being in a 1v3 against the Omens, who have a ton of health. So there, you can get a Somber Smithing Stone 8, and off to the right, you can get this lever, which acts as a shortcut back to the first long hallway. And then here is the progression door. Though as you can see there are 2 Omens. And for the sake of time, we are just going to grab this Smithing Stone 7 and just not fight them. They're actually too big to make it through that door. So, as long as you can make it through the door, they can't follow you. And from there you can drop down this pathway, which lets you continue on, making your way slowly down deeper into the sewer section. And you may notice that I'm running past a lot of the enemies, and that's mostly for the sake of time. And down there's a few things down there, but it's mostly enemies, and the items, in my opinion, aren't worth it. The main thing of note being the Nomad Ashes, which get very much outclassed by a lot of other ashes. So, if that sounds interesting to you, you can go there and get it. But unless you're really interested in an okay-ish Spirit Ash, you can just move on. Or here, there's another Omen, though this one is unique because killing them gets you the Omen Bairn item, which is a tool and not really useful or good, but it is unique and it looks cool. We can give it that. Then up this ladder, there's this door, and this acts as a shortcut door back to the first site of grace, the underground roadside one. I don't know if you can hear it, but my cat is violently attacking the door. But she refuses to go through if I open the door, so she's just stuck in here for now. Because I can't just leave the door open. Though, here we can continue on down this side path, which, as weird as it may sound, this is actually the main path for the area. It may really look like a side path, but it is, in fact, the way of progressing, if you will. I know how to English. It is the way towards the boss. There we go. There is a golden room 10 and a shortcut ladder. And that's the omen we killed for the Omen Bairn. And here, you can drop down into this sewer pipe and then turn around and head through here. And I tend to go off to the right first. And this area may be confusing, as there's a lot of those like side pipes that just instantly lead to a dead end, or it'll go off to the side and then go off to another side which leads to a dead end. There's a smithing stone 8, so just know that once you get the smithing stone 8, you can head all the way back to the gate that we crossed through. You don't need to go down any of these side paths. As you can see, there's nothing down them. Nothing of value down them. So we're just gonna ignore that. But once you make it back to the gate, then you can head in the direct opposite direction of the gate. And this one has a lot less side paths, so it is more straightforward. And this one gets you 4 smithing stone 7s, which is very good. And then you can head back to the gated door, and you can just head straight forward. If you have trouble with that section, you can use rainbow stones, as they're quite easy to craft. So those can help as way markers. And then here you want to head through the left pipe, and then you want to take this drop down. Watch out for the enemy that wants to grab you. And here is a smithing stone 5 and a shortcut door. Though, I've never seen anyone use that shortcut door, so don't know how useful it actually is. Though, continuing on, you can drop down that ladder into this group of enemies. taking all of them out gets you a ritual pot and an elevator that will take you all the way down to the bottom. Where there will be another site of grace. Heading forwards, there's a boss. Cat sneezed again. Though, we're going to save the boss for a bit later. For now, we can head back to the Round Table Hold. And on the side with Gideon and the Twin Maiden Husks, we can talk to this Red Phantom NPC.
No, you have felt I hardly might was a going unstrapped in it. Like in the pot. Going trapped in it, like in the pot.
Again, in order to get that, you need at least one Seedbed Curse. We got one in Volcano Manor and 2 in Lanedell. So you can watch those if you don't know where to get them. And considering all the smithing stones we got, you may want to upgrade your weapon while you're here.
Well, I took you no matter out your own.
And don't forget to level up, as those Omen enemies do give a decent chunk of runes. And if you've been creating the same build that I have, but you don't like the faith, then don't worry, as at the end of this run, I will be showing multiple other different kinds of builds that you can create. Like I said, this is one of several builds that I'm making in order to go into the DLC. Though from here, we can head back to the underground roadside set of grace, and we can head down into this hole, and then we can make our way straight down. And watch out, as there is a flower attack. Now, again, if you've been copying my build, but don't like the faith, then instead of leveling up faith, you can continue putting levels into health and strength, as both of those work quite well. And then at the end of this run, you can check out the other builds that I'm going to be quickly showing off, just to see if there's anything else that may interest you.
I've been here. I will just to help me. Oh, just to help me.
So you talk to the Dung Eater, you tell him to leave, and you can kill him there if you want, or you can continue his quest, where he wants you to head out over here. And a pretty quick way to do that is to head to the Capital Rampart site of grace. Where you can then turn around and head out here and down to the left. And there is a normal natural pathway leading down, though that tends to aggro the giant enemies, so I like to just stick to the left wall, where you can then jump down using this wind tunnel. And then you can head down and right, and then down even further. This keeps you away from all of the giant golem enemies. And if you head to the other side of this lake section, then you should see someone sitting in a chair. This can either be just a normal dead guy or an NPC, depending on things that we can get to in a minute. First, there's the Dung Eater, and you can kill him.
I will kill you and defile your corpse. Then the pox will truly be your own.
And with his death, you get the Sword of Milos. And we're just gonna leave as to not deal with the giant crab, because that's not something we wanted to deal with at the moment. Though, getting away from them, that NPC that I mentioned, that would be Blackguard Bogart, who is here. So, yeah, depending on if you had purchased stuff from him or not. It was Sword of Milos, Strength, Dexterity, Great Sword, Blood Loss Buildup, Unique Skill, and it also restores FP upon defeating an enemy, which is a pretty good side benefit. And very good for if you're doing like a spell blade build, or if you're using another greatsword that uses lots of skills, especially like Lion's Claw or Blasphemous Blade, which is quite popular.
There you are, despite known as how that you are. It is my give me defile again till a countless and hundreds, a few of that rotten.
And there, you can head back to the underground roadside and then back to where we talked to Dung Eater and set him free. And you either need 5 Seedbed Curse, which will get you his Mending Rune for unending and his armor set, or if you have the potion draft, whatever you want to call it, for Nefeli Lu, you can give it to him instead to get him as a puppet. Though for that, you'd kind of beneficial to have Sylvis alive. Though from there, we can head back to the underground roadside one more time, where we can head out to the right through this shortcut gate where we got the Shadow Bait incantation. And earlier on, I mentioned that there's a pipe that you can drop onto, but we would be getting to it later. And this is later. So we can drop down onto here, and dropping down here, you do take some fall damage. So take note of that. And up here, there are 2 of these lobster enemies, which are very dangerous. So you can run through this hole in the wall to get to this site of grace, which is good in case you die. And I'm not going to say that leveling faith was good. I'm just going to say that leveling faith can make certain interactions a lot easier. Though with them dead, you can get Moog Shackle, you can get 2 Smithing Stone 7s, you can get a Somber Stone 7, you can get another Somber Stone 7, and you can get another 2 Smithing Stone 7s. So that means that in the Subterranean Shunning rounds, you can get a total of 8 Smithing Stone 7s and a Smithing Stone 8. Very good for upgrading your weapons. And here, at the Landell Catacombs Set of Grace, if you head down here, you can get the Crucible Scale Talisman, which is okay. You can get a few Grave Glowwort 9s, a handful of Grave Glowwort 8s, and the Lord of Blood's Exaltation, which increases damage with blood loss, making it pretty popular among blood loss builds. So, if you're running a blood loss build, might be worth it going through there. Though, it does have some trickery to it, in terms of how the catacomb is laid out, and it has a ton of omen enemies, so beware. And there, as you can see, you got the Haligdrake Talisman +1, which there is a +2, though that comes later, and this is kind of on the way. And this opening is where you get Shadow Bait, so hopefully that helps connect that in your mind. But from here, at the Forsaken Depths Set of Grace, which is the one right after the Warrior Jar enemies, there is a boss, so you may want to prepare. So, heading down here, there's a Smithing Stone 6, and the boss can be pretty tricky. They have some very weird timings, though they are the easier variant of this boss, so not too difficult, but not a pushover. And with their death, you get 100,000 runes and the Blood Flame Talons incantation. And here you also get a Site of Grace and a chest containing Erdtree's Favor +1. If you're more familiar with Dark Souls, then this is the Ring of Favor. And at this Site of Grace, you can talk to Melina.
If you intend to claim the frenzied flame, I ask that you cease. It is not to be meddled with. It is chaos, devouring life and thought unending. However ruined this world has become, however mired in torment and despair, life endures. Births continue. There is beauty in that. Is there not? If you would become Lord, do not deny this notion. Please, leave the frenzied flame alone.
And as you can probably tell by that dialogue, this is where you will find the Frenzied Flame, which is required for 2 different NPC quests and one of the endings. Though it's, in my opinion, not one of the good endings, and it also disfigures your body, so it's something I tend to avoid. But we're gonna go down here anyways. And here, there's an enemy. These enemies hit surprisingly hard. They do more damage than a lot of bosses, actually. And they have a surprisingly high amount of poise as well, though they can break these things. And breaking this one gets you the Nomadic Merchant set, which the incantation that they use to break it, you can get that same incantation, though sadly you can't break them for some reason. Kinda sad. Now up there, that is the Frenzied Cookbook 2, which I would not recommend getting as it just fluffs up your item crafting inventory. So, unless you're going with a Frenzied Flame build, best to avoid it. Though, as you could probably tell there, this is a platforming section. And Elden Ring, because you can jump without needing a running start, platforming is generally a little better. Though it's pretty widely agreed that this is the worst platforming section in the entire series. Now, thankfully, I did get it on the second try, so I'm going to be showing this so you know the path that I take. Though just because you know the path that I take doesn't mean that you're gonna make it. Because I know the path that I take and I don't always make it, as you can tell by the first time, so if you're gonna head down here, I wish you the best of luck. So there you get Inescapable Frenzy. That is just a note for Miquella's needle. And there you get the Fingerprint Stone Shield, which has very good defense, but also very high requirements and is very weighty. So, it's good, but it comes at a cost. And here there's a site of grace where you can talk to Melina again, where she begs you to not go through the door. And here, if you gave 3 Shabriri grapes and a fingerprint grape to Hyetta in Liurnia, then she will be here and she will ask you to go through the door in direct opposition to Melina. Which one you go with is up to you. As I said, I'm not going to do that, as I don't like to be turned into an extra crispy human. That's not something I enjoy. So, I'm not gonna do that. Though, you are your own free person with free will, probably. Now down here, there's a Smithing Stone 6. And while this is Deeproot Depths, you have to go through these Subterranean Shunning grounds to get here, so that's why we're doing it. And there, you get a Newman's Rune and a Rune Arc. And once you get that, you can honestly just teleport back. Because beyond this, unless you haven't visited Deeproot Depths before, there's nothing really worth getting down here. I'm going to go down just so you can see what there is. But it's mostly just a couple of golden rune items and a ton of those ant enemies. So, unless you really want the runes, not really worth it. Though having done that, we can head over to the East Capital Rampart site of grace. This is the one at the very beginning of Lanedell. And this is also not part of the Subterranean Shunning grounds. Though I didn't do this in the Lanedell part because I didn't have time for it. And this isn't nearly big enough to be its own part. But I also don't want to tack it on to the beginning of the mountaintops part. So, nowhere to put it besides here, really. So we're just going to head down, and then here, you can also start from the avenue balcony side of Grace, and then head out onto the main street, and head to the east side, where you can open this giant door. And you can enter here before taking out Morgoth, but you can't make it to the next site of Grace until you take out Morgoth. So this is something you want to do after taking out the boss of the area. Though the way of progress is up the stairs, though there is something down here that I think is worth getting. At least for this run, since, as I said, this is for every type of build, every kind of playstyle. Even if it's something that I don't personally use, and I'm not going to be using in this run, or with this build. Still, some people may use it, so I have to get it. With that being the perfume bottle, which should be the final one, which I missed it here, so we'll come back around to it. But at this point, you should have 20 out of 20 cracked pots, assuming you purchased all the ones from merchants, and you hit the Ariza's side tomb, which has 4 in it. And then ritual pots, you should be at 9 out of 10 by this point. There's a 1 in Mountaintops of the Giants. And you should have 8 out of 8 memory stones. There's 1 by the Primeval Sorcerer Azure by taking out a boss. And 1 purchased from the Twin Husks. And then we're at 10 out of 10 perfume bottles. And 3 out of 3 talisman pouches. So, as you can see, I don't have all of everything. But, like I said, as long as you've been purchasing them off of the merchants, and you go through Ariza's side tomb, which is in the capital outskirts, then you should have 20 out of 20 cracked pots, 9 out of 10 ritual pots. Again, the final one is in the mountaintops. I will point out the general location of that when we get to it. And it might get its own video, depending on how things work out, we'll see. But you should have 10 out of 10 perfume bottles, 8 out of 8 memory stones, and 3 out of 3 talisman pouches. So you should have, again, outside of 1 single ritual pot, you should have everything you need in terms of those things. And then here, I picked up all the items. All that's left is a bunch of enemies, which for the sake of time I'm not going to fight. And unless you really enjoy fighting those things, or just need the runes, you can pretty easily skip it. And as you can see, I'm like half health, but you can see my health bar going up in real time. And not super fast, but it's going at a pretty decent pace because of the Icon Shield and Blessed Dew Talisman. And then on top of that, I also have Assassin's Crimson Dagger and Crimson Seed Talisman. Though, this HP regen build still isn't done. There are still 2 more things for us to get to further increase this HP regen build to make it even stronger. And then there you get Flame Drake Talisman +1. Though you may have the +2 version already if you took out a certain cave in Dragon Barrow. So that the +1 version may be an upgrade. It may not, depending on if you went through Dragon Barrow or not. Though here, there are 2 Lane Down Lights, which you are free to kill or run past. And then moving up here, there's a Scarab. Now, you should watch out as they do swing back. Though killing them gets you a Somber Stone 6. And skipping that run because it's a long run with nothing there. If you face your character to the west and look down, then you should see this. And you can take that drop. It's like 1 dash to the left of west, if that makes sense. But that gets you Official's Attire and Blade of Calling, which is a strength, dexterity, faith-based physical and holy damage dagger with a unique skill. And it's basically a different version of the Black Knife, which has gained a decent reputation for being powerful, at least having a powerful skill. Though there you can hit that set of grace and then you can make your way back up. And at the top you can head through the southeast gate, as there will be a boss here. You can probably tell that enemy is not the boss. Instead, they're meant to lure you in. And I'm doing a lot of preparation here, throwing out a ton of buffs. But this boss really doesn't require any of this. Like, I consider myself to be an okay player. Not incredible by any means. The best thing about me is the knowledge that I tend to have about these games, and definitely not any mechanical skill. Though, as you can see there, I no-shot the first guy, and then got kind of lazy and sloppy with the second guy, because this boss is so easy. So, yeah, it's a duo fight, but it is by far the easiest duo fight. And taking them out, you get the Spirit Ash Omen Killer Rollo and 29,000 runes. And Omen Killer Rollo has gained a reputation for being a pretty powerful Spirit Ash, who is quite aggressive. Though, yeah, that's everything. Like, everything in these Subterranean Shunning rounds. And the pathway up to the Forbidden Lands set of grace. So, in this part, we've gotten the Blade of Calling, the Sword of Milos, the Fingerprint Stone Shield. We've gotten Official's Attire and the Nomadic Merchant's set. We have gotten the Halig Drake Talisman +1, the Flame Drake Talisman +1, the Erdtree's Favor +1. A lot of +1s. We have also gotten Omen Killer Rollo. And we have gotten the incantations of Shadow Bait, Inescapable Frenzy, and Bloodflame Talons. And again, in this run we will go through every weapon, shield, armor set, talisman, spirit ash, physic tier, and cookbook that you will need no matter what build you're creating. And I hope you continue to follow me through on this. With that being said, yeah.